So Valenant through for the gold medal match. It's time to find out who he is going to face. Judging coach is out as always first. It's time to welcome out the athletes, the Recurve men's semi-final number 2.
On target number 1, representing Republic of Moldova, Olaru. On target number 2, representing India, Dhiraj Bommadevara. And the line judge for this match is Cesar.
So another interesting lineup here. Dan Olaru, 26 years old, world number 19 from Moldova, is an Olympian from Tokyo, going up against India's world number 256 at 21 years old. It's Dhiraj Bommadevara. He's burst onto the scene, Bommadevara.
He has, yeah. This is his third World Cup only, World Cup stage. Dan has shot many more. This is his 18th World Cup stage and his 11th time he's shooting in Antalya, if you take the European Championships into account. So he's a well-seasoned shooter in Antalya especially, and notorious for being a very quick shooter. So that might put some pressure onto Dhiraj here. Another interesting to note about Dan Olaru is that he barely uses his ring finger on the string, which I'm sure throughout the match we'll find some close-up of. Typically you use 3 fingers to pull back your bow. Although Dan has his third finger on the tab, I don't think it does anything on the string. It just hangs there, kind of.
Well, in the end, a 27, which was a gettable target for Olaru, wasn't reached. He shot an 8 with his last arrow for a 26. So the first 2 set points going to India's Dhiraj Bommadevara. Now, we talked about technique. We talked about, you were talking about the ring figure. I certainly hope we do get to see that as we get close-ups, and I'm sure we will through the match. But the other thing I've noticed is the foot position from these two. It seems that Olaru is sort of, rather than his feet sort of being in line with each other, they're slightly akilt.
He has a bit of an open stance, and an open stance can aid you in having a bit of core tension, because if you have your feet open, so your right foot, for a right-handed archer, that means your right foot is standing slightly further forward than your left foot. That means you have to twist your upper body into position, and therefore having a natural tension on your core. That works for a lot of people. The alternative with a closed stance, as Dhiraj Bommadevara has, is to just have a bit of tension on your core actively, but you have to remember it, and you have to be very consistent on it. You can see here the finger is just off the string.
Marked as an 8 on our scoreboard with an asterisk, so going to measure that potential line. But Bommadevara is looking very, very comfortable.
So that's those quick shots that I was talking about earlier. I don't think Bommadevara is really bothered by it. I think he has plenty of time, and he won't be under any pressure of the clock. But in some cases, people get caught off guard shooting in a finals venue or a finals match against him.
Yeah, it would be easy to do, but he does look very comfortable. He finishes off with a 10 for a 28. A 2-10 sandwiching an 8, but it's enough to take the second set and go 4-0 up. Not a bad 3 arrows from Dan Olaru. A 27.
Yeah, 27 provisionally, I think. It's not a bad score, but it's also, I mean, not really convincing for a semi-final at a World Cup stage. So the match so far leaves something to be desired, I think.
Harsh taskmaster, Chef Vandenberg, now sitting in the commentary box, having recently retired from competing. But yeah, the scores aren't quite up there as we're used to, and certainly the high standard that was set by the compounders here quite being lived up to by the recurvers at the moment. But great to see some new faces like Dhiraj Bommadevara. He's 4-0 up here as we go into set number 3.
They're close matches nonetheless. I mean, if you look at the scores that they've shot, it says 4-0 on the set point count, but both sets were just a single point difference. So the match is closer than the scoreboard makes us seem it is. And although Dan Olaru is, I'd say, only 26 years old, his first World Cup appearance was 11 years ago.
What? He was a child then?
Yes, he was in 2012. He went to Ogden to shoot the World Cup in the US. Actually made it to the London Olympics. So he was very young for his first Olympic appearance.
Well, that experience certainly paying off here. A 28 from Bommadevara would have been enough to win the other 2 sets, but on this occasion, Dan Olaru has put in a 29, by far his best score, to get him on the scoreboard.
They're very close, aren't they? But I mean, clearly 9s, but his group is very, very good. If only he could shift it over a little bit into the tendering, but yeah, he can't.
He hasn't on that occasion. We're talking, of course, about Bommadevara. Olaru just spotted that he's on camera. But it was a great comeback from him in this third set. 4-0 down can be some pressure, but he brushed that one away, the Moldovan.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, the quick shots that he makes, they're not only they put more than only time pressure on you, because it's also just like normally you have a little bit of a moment to yourself. You shoot your arrow, you can easily just read your racket or like knock your arrow on the string. But then he shoots so quick that in a final venue, by the time you have your arrow knocked, you kind of need to go again, so you don't get that little moment, which is something that I remember caught me off guard at some occasions. But something you get used to quite easily, I'd say, but something to also keep in mind.
9.
Well, the fast shooting Olaru starts set number 4 with a 9. Fought back in the third set. Needs to do the same here, really.
8.
And the door has opened right up with that 8.
The first stray arrow that goes to the left for Bommadevara.
9. 9.
Chance to put this out of reach with a 10 and draw the scores level.
10.
And that's just what he's done. A 28 following the 29. And Dan Olaru from 4-0 down has levelled the match.
9.
Leveled the match, and even though it seemed like he was trailing by a lot because he was 4-0 behind, he is now at 4-all, but also cumulatively he shot 1 point more. So then I'd say the momentum is with Dan Olaru in both instances now.
Very much so, very much so. It doesn't seem to be affecting certainly the facial expression of Bommadevara, but clearly there's been a slight dip now in his performance there. 26 shot in that last set.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly that first arrow that like went astray. The second and the third were just fine. But yeah, for sure he has shot better scores, and we're expecting him to shoot better scores. So for this last set, I'd like to see both of them shoot a 30 actually, and go into a shoot-off.
Exactly.
That would make for some entertaining shooting, right?
It certainly would. I haven't had a shoot-off yet in these individual competitions, and that would be the case if these two score exactly the same in this fifth and final set. It's for a place in the Recurve men's gold medal match. That's one way to start. Hello. We got a spectacular start to this deciding set.
Every time he doesn't shoot a shot that he wants to shoot, he has a little bit of a reaction in the shot already. And a letdown by Dan Olaru, which I've seen before, and he can get away with because he shoots his arrow about this quick.
Oh. When you see someone reset and then score a 10, it's just amazing. So 28, the benchmark set from Bommadevara. And Olaru finishes potentially with a perfect score, but even if that is a 9, a 29 is enough to come from all the way 4-0 down to win 6-4 and book his place in the Recurve men's gold medal match. That's some show of nerve and steel, because like you said, those two first sets going to Bommadevara, but they were exceptionally close, really. Yeah,
it was really close, but yeah, he is experienced enough to know that you can come back from a 4-0 deficit. I can only imagine he's been on both ends of that of the situation. So yeah, he was nervous. He was also showing his coach afterwards. He was showing his hand and he was trembling a little bit. But as long as you can own the nerves, if you can just acknowledge them and be okay with them, then it's not that big of a deal.